Good morning, everyone. Today, let us discuss what is literary criticism. Literary criticism is the comparison, analysis, interpretation, and or evaluation of works of literature. Literary criticism is essentially an opinion supported by evidence relating to theme, style, setting, or historical or political context. It usually includes discussion of the work's content and integrates your ideas with other insights gained from research. Literary criticism may have a positive or negative bias and may be a study of an individual piece of literature or an author's body of work. Although criticism may include some of the following elements in order to support an idea, literary criticism is, quote, not a plot summary, a biography of the author, or simply finding fault with the literature. So, when we read criticism or principles of criticism, first we have to know what is literary criticism, what it is all about. So, here we can say that it is an opinion to evaluate the text, to interpret the text, to analyze the text or work of literature written by a particular writer. It is not the biography of the author or finding the fault with the literature of the author. Okay, you cannot say that this is wrong or this is right, but you can say yes, this includes this and does not include that. Although criticism may include some of the following elements in order to support an idea, literary criticism is not a plot summary, a biography of the author, or simply finding fault with the literature. Researching, reading, and writing works of literary criticism will help you to make better sense of the work, from judgments about literature, study ideas from different points of view, and determine on an individual level whether a literary work is worth reading or not. So, there are some examples of some types of literary criticism. They can be biographical, comparative, ethical, expressive, feminist, historical, mimetic, pragmatic, psychological, social, textual, theoretical, etc. So these are the areas on which a given literary work or a text can be criticized or evaluated. So these are the points which we can include in the evaluation of a literary text. A very basic way of thinking about literary theory is that these ideas act as different lenses critics use to view and talk about art, literature, and even culture. These different lenses allow critics to consider works of art based on certain assumptions within that school of theory. The different lenses allow critics to focus on particular aspects of a work they consider important. For example, if a critic is working within certain Marxist theories, he or she might focus on how the characters in a story interact based on their economic situation. If a critic is working with post colonial theories, he or she might consider the same story but look at how characters from colonial powers, that is, Britain, France, and even America, treat characters from, let's say, Africa or the Caribbean. About philosophers, critics, educators, and authors have been about writing since ancient times. Contemporary schools of literary theory have cohort. Philosophers, critics, educators, and authors have been writing about writing since ancient times. Contemporary schools of literary theory have cohort from these discussions and now influence how scholars look at and write about literature. The following section overviews these movements in critical theory. Though the timeline below roughly follows a chronological order, I have placed some schools closer together because they are so closely aligned. So they are moral criticism or dramatic construction, which started from 360 BC and is going to present. So these are the types of criticism or critical theory which has been formulated by different writers or different critics or different philosophers, laid down by different philosophers, so that they can put a framework to criticize the for the literary criticism or for the criticism of a given literary work. Here on the above section I have mentioned two examples also of Marxist theory, because it talks about economy. So when you have to study, you have to criticize, you are studying Marxist theory and you have to criticize a work from that point of view. You have to interact on the economic situation of the characters, and if you are studying the post-colonial theories and you are criticizing a particular piece of work, the characters from be looked from the point of view of the colonization. Okay, so the moral criticism, it is always there. It started from 316 BC to present. And the dramatic construction, whenever we talk about the construction of a particular or given work, its structure, its construction have been seen at length. So that is again a part, again a theory or again a base for us to criticize some given work. Then comes formalism or new criticism or neo Aristotelian criticism, which talks about form, or the new criticism, which is given by I. Richards, and neo Aristotelian criticism, making a new version, giving a new version of Aristotle's Poetics. We have already discussed Aristotle's Poetics. Then comes the psychoanalytic criticism or Jungian criticism. Carl Jung or Sigmund Freud, they are the psychoanalyst critics, and they write about the psychology or psychoanalysis, or analyze the subconscious mind or psychology of the characters. So based on the psychology of the characters is the psychoanalytical criticism or Jungian criticism, which is led by Carl C. Jung. Then comes the Marxist criticism, the Karl Marx, who has given Marxist theory, and he talks about capitalism and he talks about economy. So whenever we go through reading a work from the point of view of Marxist criticism, it has to be read from the economic point of view. Then comes the reader response criticism, which began in 1960, and it is like these theories are established or laid down by the authors, and there is no end, because a critic is free to choose a theory of his own choice. Reader response criticism, which is based on the response of the readers, that how they react over a particular or given work and how it is presented before the readers. Then comes structuralism or semiotics, which actually bases on the text itself, the language of the text, the structure of the text, or the syntax of the text. Then it began from 1920 until present. Then comes post-structuralism or deconstruction. We can say Derridian theory of deconstruction, which is a major part of post-structuralism. It began in 1966 and it is present till present. It is being followed, and these theories of post-structuralism, they oppose structuralism, means they do not talk about the structure of the poem as a as an ultimate one. Okay, they say that there can be various structures, it depends upon the readers. So deconstruction says to deconstruct a given text and to present it before the readers. Then comes the new historicism or the culture studies. The new historicism, which is based on the historicism, it had been a theory earlier, and it is based on the history, talking about the background of the work, talking about the background of the literature on which it is based. And the cultural studies is again a major part of these kinds of criticism, to study the culture of the given era, of the given age. Suppose you are talking about the work has been set in the 20th century, or let's say 18th century. So the culture of 18th century or 20th century has to be discussed or should be evaluated in the given work. Then comes post-colonial criticism from 1990 till present. This is one of the latest theories, and it talks about the colonial issues in the countries or in the places which has been colonies of Britain, America, etc. So post-colonial criticism talks about the pains of the colonial countries. Then comes the feminist criticism, a very popular term and very well known to everyone. Feminist criticism, which began in 1960 and it is continued till present. It talks about the female issues, the issue of the equality of women in the society, of women in the literature, and women in the given work. Then comes the gender theories or the queer studies. The gender theories are based on the gender. When you are studying gender theories and you are studying a particular or given work from this point of view of gender theories, you have to criticize or you have to evaluate the characters of both genders, that how they are treating with each other, how they are behaving with each other, or how they are taking it. And then comes the queer studies, which talks about the strange kind of human relationships, like those of gay, lesbian, LGBT, and transgenders, etc. So these kind of theories, they began in 1970 until present they are prevalent. Then comes the critical race theory. The critical race theory, which talks about the races of criticism, various kind of races. It again started in 1970s. And then comes the critical disability studies, the studies of disability in the present or given work. So these are the theories on which literary criticism can be based. When a writer writes something, he bases his works on these like given theories, already prevalent theories. And there are many philosophical theories also, we cannot include all there, but any work, these are the broad areas in which the theories has been classified. So uh, literary criticism is something which evaluates a given work, a literary work, or given like we can, if we want to compare two works, on what basis we are going to compare, on what basis we are going to analyze the work, on what basis we are going to interrupt or evaluate the work of literature. So these are the backgrounds. Okay, it can be evaluated on these given uh, types of literary criticism, and these are the major theories which has been given for the study of literary criticism. So I hope it was quite useful for you all. Thank you very much.